Hello, everybody, and welcome to our second in a series of three, as we will have one also tomorrow. The relation of the Great Invocation number two to the upcoming American election, which begins tomorrow. So, also at 3:30 tomorrow, we'll make sure that you have the link for it. We will have 3:30 GMT. We will have the final broadcast seeking esoterically to apply the principles of the second great invocation to the to the election and its I want to say its aftermath, because it's not just election day. Voting has been going on for quite a while, and we want to make sure that the principles of the of the divine plan come as prominently forward as may be possible under these very stressed circumstances. Tuya?
What did you?
Oh, yeah.
Wait,
You know what? Let's put it like that. And I'll tell you what, when it comes to your image, please turn your images off until the very end of the program. Okay? Turn your images off.
Okay, I am
Thank you.
welcoming everybody as well. And it is very interesting times. One thing what we can add here, that actually in 25 minutes or so, from heliocentric point of view, there is going to be Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. And of course, this is kind of archetypal pattern which we do not have a possibility to respond. But anyway, for us, it is a good way to think that when the Saturn and Jupiter is conjuncting from our perspective on, I think it was 21st of December, Michael, was it so?
19th of December. Tropical conjunction, the ordinary conjunction.
Right. So, and that is one of the old sign of the master that has been interpreted like that as well. So anyway.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, in Madame Blavatsky's chart, there is a Jupiter, a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in the sign Aquarius. So what's important here is that the sign Aquarius will be emphasized. And that, of course, looks forward to a better future.
Yes, and when we think that just putting things together, that this conjunction happens today, and it is the eve of the election. So all of these very powerful energies, patterns which are related to the solar life and our life here, it is anyway impacting the life of the planet, and then also the somewhat when the masters for sure, but when we think about that, we are aware of that. We are aware of that dance, what's going on in our system. It is also organizing our minds to a certain way. It's organizing us to think about that we need guidance, we need these openings for the higher worlds, for the higher evolution. That is for us comparing when John the Baptist was walking on earth, he was announcing that the greater one is coming. Now DK is pointing out that this is the time of the forerunner. Again, forerunner is the one who is sounding forth the coming of the greater one. We are in the end of that era. So we all should prepare very consciously of these coming times. And it is great to think about that pattern in the sky, so that having ourselves to be preparing for that then on December. Because it's going to be, again, very powerful time of the winter solstice. It's 19th when this conjunction is appearing, so it's still of that time of the conjunction and the energies which are then powerfully distributed to us. So anyway, welcome to our, Michael will say again, continue, but just welcome into our extempore, spontaneous these meetings. And we will also start this meeting today a little bit, that we will talk about this time, and then we go again to the studies, and then we have the meditation.
I think what I would say is there's no way for the inner group to relax, if we can call it that, until the inauguration actually occurs. When we look forward to what the remainder of the month of Scorpio may be, and the time that leads up to the lower interlude of the year, we can expect all kinds of obstructive, deceptive methodologies to be employed to rob the people of their will. And of course, that will have global implications. When we have selfishness that is in power, and basically we have a big battle again going on between the dweller on the threshold of humanity and the angel of the presence. This is happening. Then the side of the dweller knows no ordinary moral restraints. It will not restrain itself, and under any circumstances will attempt to keep its power. So, in a way, tomorrow is just the beginning. And of course, when we call, upon the Christ, the rider from the secret place, and we call upon those great beings who represent liberty, equality, and fraternity, we are calling upon qualities that are absolutely needed to imbue the consciousness of humanity at this time. And we on the inner side can help with that. It's true. Look, we're not in World War II, certainly not yet. And hopefully there will not be that kind of war that the Tibetan talked about that would be on a religious basis and in which Shambhala would be involved, he says, for the first time. So hopefully that will not come to pass. But as Tuija was emphasizing yesterday, it's utterly important that we do not fall into the trap that happened before World War II, where the disciples of the world did not concentrate sufficiently on the positive outcome, on the spread of goodwill, on the assertion of the true values of the soul. And as a result, the counterforce was able to launch this dreadful war, which completed the 1914 to 1945 period of war. Now, we feel that we can avoid that precipitation, but there's no question that the powers of obstruction seek to enslave humanity, whether literally or financially, or in terms of the deprivation of their health. There are all kinds of ways that these powers can work. And as members or potential members of the new group of world servers, we really have to together stand with massed intent and see to it that the true soul values are asserted. And that's what we're trying to do with these 3 programs. Tuija, did you have something there?
Yes, I just want to quote, read from DK from Externalization of the Hierarchy, and now I have the page 399. I would ask you also to take those measures in your individual life and in your environment, wherever possible, which will make the work to be done successful. To use both the invocations constantly. Do not use them as prayers or employing the energy of desire, but as great challenging demands, employing the power of the will as you can master it and focus it at a point of tension. At the time of the full moon, gather people together as we have now gathering. It's still the full moon, the second day after the full moon. An act of fusion and of cooperation, thus aiding humanity and throwing your small individual effort behind that of the hierarchy. I would ask you to recognize that as a part of the new group of observers and as a person of goodwill, you can act as a mediating factor between humanity and the hierarchy. And that is something what I think we should consciously think also that aspect. What does it mean to be a mediator between? Because the so much responsibility is lying upon the shoulders of this group, because that group has to be aligned with the hierarchy, being available for the energies to be descending through that group into humanity. If that is taken away, it's like that is a cord between the apparatus and between that where the energy is coming, so the hierarchy. So if there is not that cord, nothing is happening then in that vehicle, what is humanity. Bringing the gap between the mass of men stunned by suffering, blind to the higher issues and inert, and the spiritual group which is seeking so earnestly to bring help and life. I would have you use with all the power which in you lies, the creative imagination, as you endeavor to do these things, and to believe that the sincerity of your purpose and the love of your hearts can and will help make possible the great approach and so hasten the great release. Yes.
Okay. Well, now, are we to the point that yesterday we did the mantra
Of unification.
the mantra of unification?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think we do that now. If you can find it for us, dear.
Yes.
Okay. Very to you.
Or to you. Let us say one verse you, one verse me.
Okay.
The sons of men are one, and I am one with them. I seek to love, not hate. I seek to serve and not exact due service. I seek to heal, not hurt.
Let pain bring due reward of light and love. Let the soul control the outer form and all events, and bring to light the love which underlies the happenings of the time.
Let vision come and insight. Let the future stand revealed. Let inner union demonstrate, and outer cleavages be gone.
Let love prevail. let all men love. Oh.
As you see, we
Julie and I
have
are we're trying to communicate here across the temple from each other. The trouble is I don't have my glasses on. I can see everything here just fine, but over
we-
there, maybe not.
So is there anything that we will bring into the surface, something that you wish to say? Or are we going to the
I think
studying?
we'll go into the studies, and then I'll take little breaks.
Okay.
And if you have something you wish to ask or say, you turn that off, then we'll have the opportunity to do that. As I say, this great invocation number 2 is divided into 3 parts, and we're taking the second part today. And of course, I am not showing everything because it's just too much. But if you turn to page 266, you will have the opportunity to read carefully what DK has said about this invocation. And it's really well worth doing. We ended with the idea yesterday that the rider from the secret place was coming forth. Let the rider from the secret place come forth, and coming forth may he save. Come forth, O mighty one. So this rider is the Christ. And, I want to really relate this to the election. Humanity will have a second-ray soul. It is meant to express eventually a second-ray soul. The United States already has a second-ray soul, and certain other countries as well. It is imperative that this second ray be expressed. And that means that the candidates which are most representing the soul of the nation and the coming soul of humanity have to be supported, and not the sort of violent, Martian, narrow expression of the red sixth ray, the Martian type of crude sixth ray. That has not to be expressed. And so right there we have a distinguishing factor in this election. Now, I just read that the Blue Group has a new motto: souls to the polls. In other words, let the souls come to the voting place. Souls to the polls. And long ago, the candidate for the Blue, former Vice President Biden, said, this is a battle for the soul of America. And if he were to go further with it, it's a battle for the soul of humanity as well, because whatever the effects are, will spread far and wide within humanity. So I think we can discriminate. We're not, having a political push here. What we're trying to do is emphasize the values, which emphasize the divine plan, which emphasize the soul of the nation, which emphasize the soul of humanity altogether. And if we can understand what that is, then we are in a position really to give our full internal support to the groups, to the blue group, literally, the Jupiterian heart-centered group, which will bring forward soul values in a way which are sorely needed at this time as the forces of opposition seek to obstruct everything, and especially before the great conclave of 2025, when finally the actual externalization of the masters will begin in earnest and in a physical way. Maybe it'll be 100 years, or who knows exactly when the Christ may reappear, but the masters have to come first. And they have to establish themselves in the 5 planetary centers. And in order to do that, there has to be a certain attitude prevailing among the mass of people everywhere. And that's what we're fighting for, to uplift this attitude and to take it away from dogma and rigidity and selfishness and materialism and all of those things which stand against the coming of the hierarchy and the Christ. So here are some few things in part number 2 about the rider from the secret place. At the time this was written, it was not certain that the Christ would actually reappear in person in a physical vehicle. However, later, during the 1940s, 1943, 1945, he made his decision that yes, he would reappear outwardly and presumably in his will-created body, his Maya Virupa. The sound of his coming will be known, and speaking symbolically, the thunder of his horse's hoofs will be heard. And we have to understand that lightning is the symbol of the first ray and thunder is the symbol of the second ray. And that, of course, is the great influence he will bring, but supported by all these great agencies of will. The avatar of synthesis, the spirit of peace on the second ray, and the Buddha on the third ray, and the lords of liberation, especially the one who equates with liberty, will be supporting him particularly and channeling through equality and fraternity. The influence which he will wield, says the Tibetan, and the energy he will transmit from the lords of liberation will inevitably be potently felt, evoking an immediate human response. We want to help with that in this coming election and its possibly grotesque aftermath. This will prove an incontrovertible fact that his radiation will reach forth and surround his disciples struggling in the conflict with evil, and we still are we not, is also certain and sure. This will enable them to make the supreme effort which will win the battle for humanity. Now, DK is referring very much to the Second World War, but the battle for humanity, for the soul of humanity, has not yet been won, not yet. So he goes on to say other things here about coming in the air and so forth, but you can read that when you take your CD-ROM or your book, Externalization of the Hierarchy, and check it out. And do that, please, do that during these days, this day of coming up tomorrow, the day of the election. Of course, we've been voting all along, of course, but still it has a very potent significance. Huge numbers of people will vote, and already methods of deception have been worked out so that by declaring an early victory, the side of the gross red energy can cripple the final outcome and send it into the courts where who knows what can happen. All right, the second stanza here of Great Invocation number 2, let the souls of men awaken to the light, and may they stand with massed intent. Let the fiat of the Lord go forth, the end of woe has come. Come forth, O mighty one, the hour of service of the saving force has now arrived. Let it be spread abroad, O mighty one. And basically, this is an invocation to the Christ. And, you know, wherever we can visualize the image of the Christ and its total benevolence with respect to the soul of our planet and the great second ray of our solar system, that visualization can be accomplished and should be utilized. DK talks here about the light, and you can read about that later. The reference in this second stanza is to the more extended idea of the relation of humanity, the kingdom of men, that's the fourth kingdom, to the spiritual hierarchy, which is the kingdom of God. So, you know, that hierarchy is the fifth kingdom, though the members of it are still members of the fourth group of creative, the fourth group of monads called the initiates. We all are part of that one. When these two, now, this is what we have to keep our alignment for during these trying times when we are, in a way, holding a vigil, you know, we're holding a vigil and we're participating subjectively in this election. We may have already participated objectively with our vote if we are United States citizens. When these two are more closely aligned and related, light will break out among the sons of men as a whole, just as light breaks out in the individual aspirant. Now, you know, when we have these violent militias, when we have people surrounding, let's just say, using car kind of caravans or car armies to slow down the progress of the buses that are carrying the blue group, we have real aggression. This is not intended to be the American way. It's not intended to be the way of the country over which Master Rakosi, Master R, the Mahachohan, has his regency. It's not intended, and we must counteract that. This much to be desired event, when the light breaks forth, can be brought about by, and here we are, by the spiritually minded people in the world, by the men and women of goodwill, and by the world disciples standing with massed intent. And that is what we must do during this period that lies ahead, leading to the inauguration, hopefully, that will place the soul of the nation in a superior position. So it's a uniform, united focus, says the Tibetan, massed intent, and you don't see it very often. Okay. It's not hoping, it's not praying, it's intention. Intention. And this calls on the will of all of us as we're trying to participate with spiritual will. Intention here is the unbreakable, immovable determination that a situation shall be handled, that what is needed in order to release mankind assuredly must appear, for such is the mental intention of the focused minds of many. So massed intent. It's a very Vulcanian idea, and we are to give attention to it. When humanity has fulfilled the conditions through a focused mental demand, which is what we are doing here. We are demanding that soul values emerge, that the soul of the nation strengthening the soul of humanity, emerge. That's what we're demanding. Based on correctly formulated mass intent, then will come the affirmation from the spiritual forces. So we cannot think that our participation is at all negligible. I'm just trying to look at a couple of things here and see how far I can go before we have your input, your questions, if there are any, or just somehow going with what the Tibetan has said, which is very nourishing. Okay, so there was a very evil situation going on at the time this invocation was given forth in 1940. It really was a life or death situation for humanity as a spiritual kingdom. It all could have gone down. And as a matter of fact, the chilling idea associated with that is that hierarchy itself expected that humanity, because of its very poor choices and its essential refusal to abide by high values, would go down. But the Lords of Liberation stepped in and in very occult ways prevented, basically, the destruction of the Allied powers by atomic bombs. They prevented that. How they did it? Well, he describes it somewhat, and it was upon the level of thought. So now the end of woe has come, and we have so much remaining woe in this world. Now, for nations to be selfish and not care about each other and not share and not have an attitude of peace towards each other and to simply be pursuing their own corrupt ends is against the divine plan, and it stops the reappearance of the Christ from taking place in a timely manner. And the delay could be considerable. At one point, DK talks about a 300-year delay. Now, maybe it could be more, who knows? So he says here, the Tibetan says, we have the appearance of the Lord of Civilization. That's Master R, that's the Mahachohan, who voices and engineers upon the physical plane the fiat of the Lord of Liberation and of the rider from his secret place. And this is probably that Lord of Liberation who is associated with liberty, the very opposite of the kind of enslavement which selfishness brings about. He aids and makes possible, owing to his control, this is Master R, the precipitating upon the earth and in the area of combat, and we are there, of the power generated by the Lords of Liberation, expressed by the coming one, the Christ, and focused through him as the hierarchical representative in Europe and also in the United States. So his role is very great, along with the work of the Christ and the work of the Manu with his knowledge of the science of divine government, and we're familiar with the Christ's bodhisattvic message. Okay, so then this incoming energy that we want to render ourselves receptive to is stepped down so we can receive it because it's very high, and so that the masses can respond to it. All right, now, so here he gives us who can reach whom and in what way. Because when we are standing together as a group with massed intent, we want to use the right method of approach in this science of approach. Number one, the Lords of Liberation reached by the advanced spiritual thinkers of the world whose minds are rightly focused. Let us hope that we can number ourselves with them. Then comes number 2, the rider on the white horse, or from the secret place, which is hierarchy, reached by those whose hearts are rightly touched. So we want to be representatives of both the first and the second. And finally, the Lord of civilization, the Master R, reached by all who, with the first 2 groups, can stand with massed intent. We have to set an example, and we too want to reach the Lord of civilization for the right manifestation of the divine plan, especially as regards the establishment of a true, peace-loving, sharing, non-corrupt democracy. Peace-loving, sharing, incorruptible democracy. That's what we are working toward. It's the great hierarchical form of government. On the united work of these 3, if humanity can succeed in calling them forth, will come the alignment and the correct relation of the 3 great spiritual centers of the planet, and note this, a thing which has never occurred before. Those are some of the stakes that are involved in this amazing opportunity and crisis. Now, let me just check a little bit here. I think, I think okay, I'm going to read this little bit, and then we'll stop and have your input, your questions, your thoughts, or if no thoughts at all, we just go along with what the Tibetan has said, which is surely inspiring and leads to every one of us thinking that the work we do together tomorrow and on days following until the inauguration is truly established, hopefully for better and not for worse, will be demanding of our attention. The Lords of Liberation will receive and transmit to the hierarchy energy from the center where the will of God is known and furthered, i.e. from Shambhala to hierarchy. Number 2, the rider will receive this energy and take such action as will express it. We have only to read the reappearance of the Christ, and we will see the amazing things intended by the Christ during his ministry of 2,000 years to humanity, delivered in person. But this is the beginning of that. The rider will receive this energy and take such action as will express it, plus the motivating energy from the center where God's love is expressed, that is the hierarchy. The Lord of civilization will stimulate and prepare the center, which we call humanity, for right reception of this revitalizing, stimulating, and releasing force. So you can see that we too, little groups like ours, have a place in this continuity of transmission, which brings the highest to the lowest. The highest and the lowest meet. It is a 7th ray word of power, and within this connection, within this flow, we take our stand. Okay, I think that might be okay. And thus, Shambhala, the hierarchy, and humanity, and let us think of those 3 when we work together, will stand consciously related and dynamically in touch with each other. The will of God, the love of God, and the intelligence of God will thus fuse and blend on earth and in relation to human problems. And we are working, of course, for the victory of the forces of light. Now, later on, tomorrow, I think we'll take up this question of what is the saving force. There are a number of more pages to look at in connection with this second of the great invocations. And so, okay, well, I'm trying very hard here to make this work. There we go. All right. Now it's your turn. Tuya, do you have anything that you wanted to say here yet? No. Okay, so later then. All right, then. So I'm not sure that Michael, Stacy, are you with us?
Yes,
Because
I am.
Okay, well, there you are. Okay. I know it's the wee hours for you. Now, is there anybody that has anything they would like to offer or question?
Bruno has written, curiously, Uranus can be seen with naked eyes these days as his elliptic movement is closer to Earth. This has a very esoteric, since it is a transpersonal planet, meaning as we can see the transformation and liberation it brings to us at the present moment.
That's good to know. That's an exciting kind of stellar, or well, it's the solar systemic event. And of course, we have to recognize that with the heliocentric alignment of Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius and their conjunction tropically, that the appearance of Uranus, which is really the most powerful planet in Aquarius, we can hope that it is auspicious. Sometimes we know, the energies are impersonal, and we know the kind of upsets that Uranus can bring and the shaking of the foundation, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Humanity is having so many of its very old, crustified, if I can say, rigid values shaken. So maybe we are indeed at a time when some kind of transformation is imminent, and hopefully in the direction of true Aquarian values. So thanks for that tip, and maybe some of us can, if we have eyes to see, can go out and catch the appearance. Uranus is in tropical Taurus, right? So therefore, it's going to be in against Aries, right? Sidereal Aries and tropical Taurus, or is it the other way around? I mean, anyway, it's in that part of the sky.
And then Walter responded, indeed, Uranus reached perigee, its closest point to Earth this year, on October 31st. That was the same day as the Scorpio full moon, which happened to also take place exactly conjunct and opposite Uranus. Transformative and liberating times indeed.
Thank you for that additional knowledge on the subject. Well, that's it. And we have to ask ourselves, to what extent are we expressing Uranus? To what extent are we transformers? And one of the things that question leads to is, how well do we know the archetypes which are intended to manifest if the divine plan is to become a reality on the outer planes? Uranus is by far the greatest of the archetypal planets, and it represents a kind of arrangement in the heavens. It's called the Heavenly One, where the energies which make up any system are put together in ideal relationship. How much of that as transformers can we actually bring through changing the form? Actually, as a matter of fact, if you really look at Uranus, it has everything to do with several trans possibilities. There is transmutation, the improvement of the quality of matter, transformation, which changes the vehicle and into a better type of representative. And gosh, what should be the next one? letting it, yes, transfiguration, which is the glorification of the form under the light of the soul. And then we have translation to the Buddhic plane, which is an elevation into the cosmic ethers and into the true livingness of our solar system. It is a principled area of the solar system, whereas the dense physical body is not. And then, well, I don't know what transit could be, transubstantiation, perhaps. Anyway, it's into the spiritual will, and Uranus is a major first-ray monadic planet. So the fact of its present position will be very important, and hopefully people like ourselves can contribute to guiding those energies along a path that is better for the emergence of the human soul. Thanks, Walter. Thanks, you, Bruno.
And then Bruno adds, exactly, Walter. It's so amazing, the esoteric signification of a seventh ray that can almost be seen.
Mm-hmm.
And he adds, it can be seen at the location where we all see the Scorpio full moon.
Okay. Let's see. You mean yes, the moon itself, right. Okay, indeed.
And
well,
then,
let's get our eyes peeled and our binoculars out, so yeah.
And then Olga asks, how can the corruption of specific nations end?
Well, that's a huge question, isn't it? And I would say that through the power of replacement. First of all, you have to suffer enough under corruption so you demand a better way. And then with the demand for spiritual values, soul values to emerge, they will assert their power just the way the angel of the presence asserts its power over the dweller, and will be substituted, the power of substitution, for the older and retrograde values. So first to suffer, it seems to be humanity's way, then to look for a better way, then to find that within oneself and one's nation, and within humanity as a whole, there is a better way, and then to assert that way so that the other will disappear by replacement and will no longer be tolerated by the, should we say, public opinion, which he says is the strongest type of force to bring about change. Unfortunately, the suffering generally comes first, and you know what he said about the United States. He says, fortunately for the soul of that great people, much suffering lies in store. That's how I would, recommend it, and basically look at it in your own life. How did soul values replace normal personality values? Basically, one gets tired of the personality values. One suffers through them. One, through meditation, detects something higher. One brings it through, and that something higher replaces the retrograde motion of the personality.
You're describing the story of the prodigal son.
Okay. Yeah, I guess he woke up there and he realized that in his father's home, even I think the animals were fed better than he was. something like that, or the servants, whatever. Yeah, he awoke to his degradation on the far cusp of the system. He had journeyed far into the land of distances. And that's what the monad does, of course. It plunges into matter on a redemptive mission and then seeks to return, bearing with it the red cattle of Geryon, basically. We have the 12th labor of Hercules, where in a chalice, the Savior puts these people that are ruled by desire only and lifts them to a higher state. So he redeems as he returns.
I am not seeing hands raised, and there are no more comments or questions in the chat box.
Okay. Okay, friends. Well, that is pretty much the second stanza that of this great invocation number 2. We have a meditation coming up, and there's a little bit more. He talks a lot about Germany here and how to bring in the Shambhala force in the wrong way without love. But there are also those who can bring in the saving force. Let the love of God be shed abroad in our hearts. Today, the need is for the spread of the saving force. It's all three aspects of divinity. It is power, love, and intelligence, all united, all the three centers aligned to take hold of our minds and to control from that directing center. For it embodies the needed salvation at this time. It will take the united efforts of all three focal points, Shambhala, hierarchy, humanity, of divine expression on our planet to make this possible, but it can be done. So let us all resolve to be part of the saving force and to carry that with us in our internal determinations and in our intention to help. And may we stick with it. It's going to take a month or two now to see this through to fruition. We don't know what is going to happen. We don't know entirely, by any means, the plan of Sanat Kumara. We know that a great universal epidemic had been planned. We are with it. We don't know how much humanity has to suffer before it is willing to turn around and try a higher way. So we have to simply abide through these uncertain times, bringing in as much of the spiritual nature of the soul as may be possible. Okay, Tuya, then.
There are people.
Oh, are there people now? More? Are there? Michael? Or not? Okay. All right, let me just say, Karen, what is the thing that has never occurred before? The direct alignment of Shambhala, hierarchy, and humanity. That has never occurred before. And, I'm happy to offer, we offer our own take on these things, and we put them forward as possibilities. There's no dogmatism in it. It's our response to what the Tibetan has said. Okay, how does corruption end? And the two of you, from the astrological, astronomical point of view, Bruno and Walter, have supplied us with some important information. And
I'm back, and Francis asks, what planets will be aligned on the winter solstice?
I think it's Jupiter and Saturn, isn't it? I don't know exactly. Maybe Walter and Bruno, I haven't checked it out. But I know that on the 19th, which virtually is the winter solstice, Jupiter and Saturn are in tropical Aquarius together. And I suppose I could, go and try to look there. But I think that may be something you can just, look up. Let's just see if I can do this very quickly. If I can do it very quickly, we can see chart options, dynamic.
And Bruno has written the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn ingress in Aquarius.
Yeah, that's the one that seemed to be the case. And let's just see if there's anything else, as long as I've got it up here. This is if you don't have the Solar Fire program, you might want to get it. It's really the best as far as I'm concerned. Okay, December and 2020, and let's see. Yeah, it's Jupiter and Saturn are right together, as you see. Exactly, I really hit it on the head there. 0028 minutes in Aquarius, and well, Pallas Athene and all that, but the moon is in Pisces and probably going into Aries, but here it is, right there. That is your alignment, and somehow it looks like in Finnish time at least, well, GMT, it would be 16, 27, 28, but the alignment will hold for a while because the whole degree will count. Now, what will it mean? It will mean group responsibility and group opportunity together and group expansion of the heart. That is, in other words, those two factors, responsibility and expansion, the third ray and the second ray, so necessary on our planet, will come under the influence of the incoming sign, and a more Aquarian mode can begin to flourish. Now, look, there are many people who are Aquarius and they still rigidly adhere to a rather narrow point of view. They put all their eggs in a small basket, and they are still Aquarian, but they are more along the Saturnian type of Aquarian than the Uranian Jupiterian type of Aquarian. The good thing about Saturn in Aquarius is the whole idea of group responsibility, and it rules the first major decanate from 0 to 10 degrees of Aquarius, and will be very powerful during the Aquarian age. So there it is. And we should work forward to the implications of that conjunction, tropically considered. Heliocentric might have a lot to do with the nature of the soul and so forth, but we are not yet, until we are third degree initiates, centered within the egoic lotus causal body. We are not yet. We are still soul infusing personalities, and tropical astrology does work in so many ways that are important ways. Okay, so now, is that it, Michael?
Looking, Walter writes, there's also a total solar eclipse on the new moon of December 14th this year, taking place soon before Jupiter and Saturn enter Aquarius and conjunct each other.
Hopefully that will be a potent one-pointed directive in Sagittarius for the disciples, hopefully. Because it does indicate direction, it does indicate intuition, it does indicate one-pointed discipleship. Hopefully the disciples will be able to use it in that way. Okay.
That seems to be it at the moment.
Okay. Now, Tuya, you can take over on the.
Michael, I was thinking, I think it would be good to have few words about invocation, why it is so important.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, well, of course, it is the science of all sciences. It is the coming science whereby heaven and earth can come together. Let the highest and the lowest meet. It's an Aquarian science, particularly. And it has to do with telepathy from the higher points of tension. Tuya, turn that off.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Telepathy from the higher points of tension. So often you wonder where are the energies which we can receive coming from? Really, where are they coming from? And so often the spontaneous, almost automatic, myopic, glamorous, illusory reactions of the personality bring the energies which fill the etheric body. But it is possible through the right use of mantras, the right use of meditation, the right use of certain types of forms of meditation, which will be increasingly given to us as we prove our worthiness and to use them and our need for their use. These things will connect us with the higher strata. They will connect us with the cosmic etheric levels. Now, that is cosmically a principled level of expression. Our normal worlds down here of the personality, whether the 18 lower subplanes or even the 21 lower subplanes, are not they're not principled, cosmically considered. They are aspects of aspects that are systemically principled but not cosmically principled. So everything that we call our spirituality and can call in a practical manner our spirituality takes place for the time being on the cosmic ethers. And even that is so for the masters. The Buddha and the Christ are just beginning to push beyond the cosmic ethers into the cosmic astral plane. So, what was the question?
I was just saying about the importance of invocation.
Yeah.
So you
look,
traveled very far as well.
I went too far beyond the point of no return. The point is the highest and the lowest meet. Turn off to you. The highest and the lowest meet. And there are points of access which are very important for the transformation of the dense physical body of the solar logos and of the dense physical body of the planetary logos. First of all, can we really bring soul energy through invocation of the right kind? Can we really bring triadal energies into our lower realms so that we know what is the impersonal life, which is non-local and planetary wide and so forth? And eventually, can we be initiates of the 4th, 5th, 6th degrees and beyond, where the power of the monad can make itself felt on the lower planes? Then indeed, the highest and the lowest will meet. And that's what invocation is all about. It is stretching our range of sensitivity through forms which have been approved, which work, which are mantrically justifiable, and we don't have all of them yet, but we have certain great invocations that allow us to access those higher levels on the cosmic ethers, which can entirely transform our life down here in the dense physical body of the planetary and solar logos. So we need it. We need invocation as the science which helps us connect to the higher points of tension, which eventually we must sustain. Okay, that's what I have to say about it for the moment, and there's loads to be said. Obviously, you can write books about invocation. When you read Letters on Occult Meditation, you'll see all the many, many methods that the Tibetan speaks of that can be used to advance invocation. And it is extraordinary what one day we will be able to reach, even the solar logos.
Well, also, I was thinking that we could have been pointing out why do we have this meeting together? Why do we have? Why do we study the invocation? Because we are going to use also in a group formation this invocation together, and it is good to realize that this is actually our tool. What is, in some sense, it is the best tool for us. It is that what we are supposed to use, and Dike is all the time pointing out that how to invoke, consciously invoke, and going towards that, what is this spiritual demand. We very often are too shy to use that word, to demand, but that is what we should be doing. Spiritually demand these forces to come on earth, to be present here, to make changes. That is how we occultly work when we are using the law. So we are working as it should be, according to the plan, according to the law, and that is our right. It's a human or discipleship right to use that kind of way, the invocation. And also that when we are working in this way at this moment, our purpose to come together was that we are having the election in the United States we have in our minds. We all have gathered because of that, wanted to keep our supporting hand and presence for that. So do you want to say anything about that?
No, I think we could go on.
We go into meditation. So we will just a few words of that, how we are going to do. It is that we also yesterday we were asking that we would be respecting this inner ritual that we are doing together, that we approach that step by step, and then we come into the place where we are invoking together as a one sound, coming and rising from us as human members, as the members of the human family. And we are calling these higher powers in the form of the great invocation number 2, and what we have been studying, these presences to be involved in this process, what's going on. And because it is this pivotal point, what is happening in United States, because of that Dharma, what is in the soul of United States. That's why we are giving our support for that. Thus, it's going to somehow define what are going to be the next steps in humanity. So maybe we will now enter into the meditation. And so we will imaginatively close the doors and we close the circle. So we will not leave or we are not entering in. So we will close now even the possibility to come into this space. And bear with me, there are and maybe some technical demands here, but just keep your energetic connection to that what we are doing. And we will remind ourselves what TK was saying, that we can give acceptable help if we evoke our own will and control our emotions and discipline our personality. Thus then we are able to present a tiny focal point through which the spiritual forces can work. Through the agency of the many tiny points of light and will, much potency can be transmitted. So all of us, wherever we are now upon the earth, let us stand in the center of love.
At the center of our love I stand, and from that center I, the soul, will outward move. From that center I, the one who serves, will work. May the love of the divine self be shed abroad in my heart, through my good
Now make for yourself very clear why we have come together today in this moment. We will contemplate that in silence 3 minutes. The presence of the angel of presence. We are aware of our group brothers and sisters who have come together in this moment to give our help and our willing attitude to this moment. Visualize before you 3 circles within each of them. Circles of invocation. When we enter into the first circle, leave behind everything what belongs to the mundane world. See two guardian angels and walk now through that gate of angels. You are now standing on the third, the outer ring of violet. Contemplate the Christ and his temptations. Christ met the first temptation of Maya to use his divine powers for selfish ends by the quiet reiteration of his divinity. Divinity which was based on the universality of the word. The Maya or delusion of the physical nature could not hold him. From that he stood free. We imitate the Christ. We sound first Om. For making Maya in United States to disappear. Align with the solar angel of the United States. And state the motto of this great angel: I light the way. And see this lighted way now purifying the chaos in United States. Mayavic chaos. Visualize the ring pass knot and see two pillars which are holding a door. See that door in color of shining ivory white. Now standing before the door with your brothers and sisters, sound Om for aligning with that what is on the other side. And see the lighted way appearing and leading through the door. go through that door by sounding sacred word Om. And now we will hold a mudra, Hood mudra of fearlessness. You can lift either your right hand or both hands. When we are now standing on the second ring in rose color, we radiate this energy of fearlessness into United States, and we contemplate Christ, how he met the second temptation of clamor with the submergency of his vital spiritual life by an emotional use of his divine powers. Desire was transmuted into power, and victory was achieved. We imitate him, and we sound Om for dissipating clamors in United States. And again we align with the motto of the Soul of America, I light the way, and seeing how through the group the lighted way is purifying the clamors. On emotional plane. See the ring pass knot and again the two pillars which hold the door in glowing light blue color. We stand before the door, and when we sound again Om, we align with that, what is on the other side. See the lighted way appearing and leading through the door. Go through that door by sounding sacred word Om. Now hold the Dhyani Mudra, the mudra of meditation. And we are standing now on the first ring of orange color. And again, we align with the Christ who met his temptations of illusion, meeting the devil, father of pride. The devil showered him a picture of diversity, of many kingdoms, much division, of multiplicity, plurality, separated units. But Christ came to unify, to bring together and to unite in all kingdoms, all races, and all men. We stand for that. In that standing we sound Om, making all illusions disappear in United States. We merge with the motto, I light the way. And we see the lighted way making all illusions to disappear. We see the ring pass not, and there are two pillars which hold the door, now in color of radiating indigo blue. We stand before the door and sound Om and align with that what is on the other side at the center. We see the lighted way appearing and leading through the door. Go through that door by sounding sacred word Om. And we hold turning of the wheel mudra. we have entered in indigo blue space of invocation. Dedication to Christ. We have gathered in your name. Lord Maitreya, be with us. Group stands now gathered in the center, in the sacred circle of sisters and brothers, strongly aligned now vertically. Now we are having 2 minutes silence for fusion and union of the group and for preparing to be a wielder of spiritual energies and to be used by spiritual force and invoke as one unit, as one soul. And 2 minutes silence. A great invocation number 2, led by Michael.
Let the Lords of Liberation issue forth. Let them bring succor to the sons of men. Let the rider from the secret place come forth, and coming save. Come forth, O Mighty One. Let the souls of men awaken to the light, and may they stand with massed intent. Let the fiat of the Lord go forth. The end of woe has come. Come forth, O Mighty One. The hour of service of the saving force has now arrived. Let it be spread abroad, O Mighty One. Let light and love and power and death fulfill the purpose of the coming one. The will to save is here. The love to carry forth the work is widely spread abroad. The active aid of all who know the truth is also here. Come forth, O Mighty One, and blend these three. Construct a great defending wall. The rule of evil now must end.
One minute silence. It is the will to victory that is demanded at this time. It is the will to invoke that which is needed. It is the will to focus, and through this focusing to aid in the great act of invocation for which the Christ is at this time preparing himself. It is the will to goodness, to self-control, and to the evocation of right action for which the hierarchy asks today. If humanity does its part, it will find that hierarchy more than ready to respond and do its share in bringing about world release from the forces of evil. And let us all say together, may the blessing of the Masters rest upon you as a group and as individuals. And may the holy ones whose pupils you seek to become show you the light you seek, give you the strong aid of their compassion and their wisdom until you stand where the one initiate is invoked, until you see his star shine forth. There must be steadiness, selflessness, and silence, plus courage and confidence. Confidence in the strength of your own souls, confidence in the watching hierarchy, and confidence in the plan. The end of tribulation is not yet, but it is in sight. And for the end, let us say the last mantra. Let the forces of light bring illumination to mankind. Let the spirit of peace be spread abroad. May men of goodwill everywhere meet in a spirit of cooperation. May forgiveness on the part of all men be the keynote at this time. Let power attend the efforts of the great ones. So let it be, and help us to do our part. Thank you, dearest friends. And we meet again tomorrow.